What's up, guys? We're looking at our next project here. So in this script, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a shell script to traverse the file system tree. Okay, so it's going to check the given directory, and it's going to tell you what files are listed under that directory, and then it's going to move to the next directory and do the same thing. Okay, so that's basically the gist of what's going on here. Okay, it's a little bit of a longer script, but not to worry. Most of it is comments, and I'm going to be going through it with you line by line. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hop over to our virtual box here. I'm going to leave out the comments in my script as I write it, okay, just because I'm going to be explaining to you what's going on. But feel free to kind of cross-reference it as I'm writing it with the comments in the actual script file. So we're going to enter our text editor. So Vim, I'm just going to name it directory.sh. We're going to go to insert mode, so I hit I on my keyboard. We're going to enter our shebang or hash pling. And we're going to use the K-shell interpreter again. Okay. So first thing what we're going to do is we're going to set up a function. We're going to name this function doIndent. And then we're going to use double parentheses. And then you open the body of the function with a curly brace. Okay, so now we've named it doIndent. We've signified it's a function by using these double parentheses here, and we're opening the body of it. So now we hit enter and go to the body of the function. We're going to set the variable j equal to 0. We're going to hit semicolon. We're going to do a while loop here. So while, we're doing a test function here, variable j is less than -lt, variable 1. And remember, that's a positional parameter, so it's the argument we're feeding into the script, the first argument. Do echo -en space j equals. Now we're using a back tick here because we want to actually run a command here. So we're using the expression command to actually add 1 to the variable j, and then we close it with a back tick, and then we close our loop. Done. And then we close this first function with a curly brace, okay? So what we're doing in this first function is we're doing a small indent depending on how deep we are into the directory system, okay? And depending on the environment, you may actually have to use a \c here instead of a echo-en in order to get that indentation, okay? But we're setting the variable j equal to 0, and we're saying while j is less than positional parameter 1, okay, and it's always going to be, right, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be feeding directory names into this script, so it's never going to, be more than this variable, because this variable is going to be a literal string, okay, and what we're doing is we're echoing an indentation, okay, so it'll always do that, and then we're going to add 1, oops, I put an equal sign, this needs to be plus, okay, and then we're going to add 1 to j. Okay, so that function's complete. Now we're going to start another function. We're going to name this one traverse. We're going to do our double parentheses so it knows it's a function. And then we're going to open the body of that function, curly brace. We're going to do a cd variable 1. Okay, so we're going to actually change directories to whatever directory we're signifying. I'm going to do a couple spaces here. We're going to do an ls, and we're going to pipe that into a while loop. So while read I do, we want that to line up with our while loop. Do indent positional parameter 2. And then we're going to nest an if statement in there. Okay, so I'm going to indent that. We're going to do a square bracket -d variable I. Then okay, we're going to go to our next line. We're going to say then echo directory : variable I. Oops, I need to spell it correctly. There we go. Okay. We're going to add one more line here. It's going to be traverse variable I. And then we're going to do a backtick because we actually want to run the expression command again here. We're going to add 1 to that 2 variable. And close it with a backtick. Else, okay. I'm still not happy with how this is lining up, so I'm going to try and fix that. There we go. Else, echo, oop, I need to close my parentheses here. That's why that color was off. There we go. Else, echo, file, I. And we're going to end our if-then statement, so phi. So our if, else, and phi are all lined up, right? And then the actual commands we're running are underneath the if statement and the else statement, okay? And now we're going to close our while loop, so done. So done is lined up with our while loop here, okay? Along with do indent. Actually, this needs to be indented. There we go. Indent that. Indent that. There we go. Okay. So remember, indentation is super important here, guys. Okay. So we have a while loop. We have do. And so while that while loop's running, we want it to do this. And then inside of that, we're nesting an if-then statement. So we have our if-then statement indented. And obviously you indent when you want to do whatever's after this if statement, if it's true, right? Then you have the else part of it, and you indent. And you have whatever you want it to do. If this part isn't true, else do this. And then you end it with phi. So it needs to be lined up here. And then I wanted to close my while loop, so I had to line that up with my while loop up here, right? And then I want to go ahead and close that function. And I have one more if-then statement I'm going to type in. So if, actually let me pull the screen up for you. If test statement dash z variable 1, then traverse 0, else traverse variable 1, 0, phi. Okay. So let's talk about this function a little bit. So what is this function doing here? Okay. Well, what this traverse function is doing is it's actually changing to a directory here. Okay, the one we specify. And then it's listing everything inside of that directory and saying while read I. Okay, and it's going to indent for us. And saying if I is a directory, dash D means if it's a directory, then echo directory, and then I. Okay. And it's also going to traverse I, and it's going to add 1 to the $2 here. Okay, so it's going to indent for us again. Else it's going to tell us, hey, that wasn't a directory, so it must be a file. So, hey, list the file. Say file is what we put. Okay? And then it ends that, okay? So basically this is telling us if it's a directory, and it's listing the directory. If it's a file, it indents and tells us it's a file. Okay? And then we close out this function. Then we have one more if-then statement down here. Okay, and this says if the length of the string is 0 or it's empty, then we don't traverse at all. Okay, else we traverse to that first directory and we don't indent, okay? So the -z here means if the file is empty, -d means if it's a string, okay? And then, oops, if we go up in our script, remember, we have the rest of it there, okay? So let's go ahead and make this script executable. Let's go ahead and save out of this. So exclamation or escape key, colon, right quit, WQ. We're going to make this executable. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and run it. And there you go. So if I just run it, it uses the default directory, and it go ahead, it starts running everything for us, right? So directory archive is a directory, then it tells us all the files under it, and it tells us desktop is a directory. And under that we have a directory.sh file, then it moves to the documents directory. There's no files under that. And then we have the downloads directory, and then we have a bunch of files under that, and so on, okay? Now I can run this again. Let me clear my screen. I can run that script again, and I'm going to say period, meaning use this current directory, and then I'm going to say documents, and then it's going to use that directory, okay? And same thing. If I scroll on up here, it starts at directory.sh, okay? It runs the directory.sh one, and it starts in my current directory here. Okay, so the first directory it sees is archive, tells me all the files under that, okay? And then it moves to the desktop directory, because that's what I specified second. Okay? So basically, let me clear my screen. Basically, it's taking your first argument, putting it in that $1 variable. Actually, let me go back to the homework here so we can talk through this. It's taking that first argument and putting it in the $1 variable, right? Because that's a positional parameter, or variable, I mean. And it's taking your second argument and putting it in this $2 variable, right? And based off of that, it's just moving through the directories. It's looking in the first one, indenting for you. And it's saying, hey, if it's a directory, I'm going to list it as a directory. And then if it's a file, I'm going to indent. And tell you it's a file here, okay? Now, if there's nothing, okay, if you put nothing in that first argument, which is what I did, then it traverses to the current directory, 0, doesn't indent. Otherwise, it's going to traverse to whatever you put in, okay? So if this is empty, do this, else if it's not empty, then traverse to 1 and basically start up top, just like we did, okay? So there's a lot of stuff we wrote in here, guys, but there's not actually that much going on, right? This is simple if you break it down step by step, okay? If you need a little bit of extra help kind of understanding these topics, be sure to follow those links at the end of our PowerPoints at the end of each session for this course. There are links there to private tutoring sessions for Linux Bash scripting, as well as private tutoring sessions for Linux System Administrator Management. There are weekly and monthly plans available. Be sure to check those out if you need a little bit of extra help. Otherwise, I am looking forward to seeing you guys in our next project.